Welcome back, Lines and Dashers, to Mock Draft 4.0. This is the final mock draft that I will be doing for this channel, at least for the 2023 draft. Now, here's the thing. I think this is my third time recording it. The first time, I uh, really wasn't proud of what I did. And then the second time, I think I got it down and everything. But then, literally, as of 30 minutes ago, the Aaron Rodgers news broke out. He has now been traded to the Jets. We'll get into that in a minute and what that means. But pretty much, I had to redo this entire video because of a massive trade that happened. I think we all knew it was coming. It was just a matter of what was actually happening because there's many reports saying that he was going to be worth a lot, or he was going to be worth literally nothing. So now that we got it all good. Adam Schefter reported it, so one of the one of the two most reliable sources when it comes to the NFL News Network. So we are good. There are a couple things to go over beyond the Aaron Rodgers trade, which we'll get to the details here and impact, as I said, in a minute. Um, so here's the thing: CJ Stroud and the S2 cognitive test came out, and it's pretty scary. Pretty scary in the aspect of that CJ Stroud looks to be an absolute bust. And now, yes, I know some of you will argue that tests don't mean everything, and I understand that. I totally get it. But I'm going to get into a minute here as to why that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, or why he probably will be a bust. So the cognitive test, for those of you who do not know, it's pretty much right here. It separates athletes based on visual learning, instinctive learning, impulse control, and improvisation, meaning which measures how the players process and how they make split second decisions. So being able to scramble out of the pocket and create a play, or if something out of the blue happens, that they're going to be able to have a great flight or fright react mode. It's the whole fight or flight thing. And CJ Stroud's apparently out of 100 is at 18. He scored an 18 out of 100 on this test, while his counterpart Bryce Young scored a 98 at the highest, with Fresno's Jake Hayner. I think that's how you pronounce it. 96. Will Levis and Jaron Hall at 93. Clayton Tune at 84. Richardson at 79. We all knew this was going to be a little bit project. And then Hendon Hooker at 46. So Hendon Hooker's already pretty low there, but at 18, that is ridiculous. Now, the owner or the founder of this test even came out and said that, you know what, take always these tests with a grain of salt. Now, normally I would say that if they didn't have a whole bunch of data that shows that this test actually does pretty well. This test has been in effect for the last 7 years and has been pretty much been a main focal point for the tests when it comes to QBs since the last couple of years. And every time in the 7 years that they've done this test, the employees even say themselves, "Hey guys, the graded high on this test doesn't always play well, but we've never seen anybody with a low grade play well either." So pretty much it's pretty much saying that, you know what, hey, if they score like a 98 like Bryce Young, it doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. But the only guarantee that they can say is that when you score shit, you will play like shit. And we have yet to see anybody in the 7 years that this test has been done who has had a shit score play well, which I think 7 years is a good sample size. So CJ Stroud's looking like a bust. And on top of that, he's from Ohio State. And probably the most successful Ohio State QB we have seen in NFL history so far has been Justin Fields, who is entering year 3 of his NFL career. There is hardly any Ohio State QB that has ever been very successful. So with those two things on top of that, plus his very low pressure rating, which we'll get to here when we actually draft him, he will still be drafted high no matter what. But be wary, teams. Be wary. So there's the CJ Stroud news, and then there was something I wanted to go over with. I know there was a lot of rumors or a lot of pretty much trade speculation. This kind of always happens a week before the NFL draft, and it's always stars players, and normally maybe one or two get traded. Last year was pretty spectacular with AJ Brown being traded for a first round pick. It was pretty cool, but here's the thing: not these trades hardly ever happen, and if they do, the guys that are being looked to being traded or potentially cut are not going to be worth a first round pick. So this mock draft is going to contain pretty much very little trades, if any at all. Um, So, I mean, to be honest, I mean, think about it, guys. There's a lot of the guys that have been traded or on the trade block are Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Devin White. There's another guy. We'll stay with those six guys, right? All those guys are probably at the most a second, third round pick. These guys aren't going to be traded for, or Trey Lance, that's the other guy. Those guys aren't going to be traded for first round picks. Now, I do believe all those guys could potentially be traded on draft night, but not for a first round pick. So there's hardly going to be a lot of player trades that I'll do here. Um, just because of that, I don't think Derek, even though Derrick Henry's been one of the best running backs in the league, I don't believe that any team is going to put a first round value on him. The only team I could see that would be the Eagles, but that would be with their number 30th pick. If for some reason they don't take BJ Robinson at 10. So we'll see. We'll see how the draft goes. And then for the trade compensation on the Aaron Rodgers trade. So obviously they just received Aaron Rodgers, and then they received pick number 15 in a 2020 in this year's fifth round pick. The Packers will pretty much swap picks and get the number 13, this year's second round pick at 42, a sixth rounder at 207, and then next year's 2024 second round pick that will become a first if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays. So more than likely, I don't want to jinx it. More than likely, this will become a first round pick because I mean, playing 65% of the plays, I mean, Rodgers just has to play 3 quarters of the season. He'll be fine. Um, he's not going to, the Jets are not going to put in Zach Wilson or, not, Mike White's not even on the team anymore, or Joe Flacco. But worst case scenario, if there is an injury, they get a second round pick. So the Packers essentially get a second round pick, a sixth, and a first for Aaron Rodgers, which, as a Packers fan, I'm not really too pleased, but I'm glad we got something. At this point, we know what we got. I'm glad we got something. Yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated, but let's get into it. Alrighty, and the Panthers are on the clock now with the CJ Stroud cognitive test, and then with the pretty much the trending towards a Bryce Young being the first overall pick. I rarely try to go with the trends, but I'm starting to think it's a little bit more real, especially after that cognitive test. I don't think even though Frank Reich loves to get his big quarterbacks, I don't think he's stupid enough, especially trading that many assets to get the first overall pick, that he wants to fuck up this pick. And Bryce Young is obviously the best prospect on in this draft by far. He's number one here, as we obviously see at rank one, and then ADP at 1.4. Now, I really don't think there's any other option. I mean, the only thing that Frank Reich doesn't like is his size, but he scored very well on that cognitive test, has done well in pretty much all of his tests. He's a great playmaker, a great creator. Obviously, his size is the big concern here, but he's done very well against Kansas State, Auburn. I have no idea what the fuck that team is. Tennessee. I mean, this dude has done well for 2 years as a starter. And the biggest difference between him and CJ Stroud is this pressure grade. This pressure grade at almost 68 is pretty good, especially, I mean, when you look at the bar, it's pretty high over there. And then when you look at CJ Stroud, now this is the other key thing that I was looking at on why this CJ Stroud could be a bust. That 43 pressure grade. That is horrible. That's absolute. I mean, absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. So, and especially in the NFL, to where the competition is only going to get better, and these guys are getting bigger and faster. He's going to be able to need to react quicker. And Bryce Young, he's been compared to the Steph Curry for the NFL, which I kind of find kind of funny, but kind of true at the same time. Weirdly enough, um, I think Bryce Young could be a potential great QB in this league, and I think he will be the Panthers franchise QB of the future. Alrighty, and with the Texans on the clock here, we could see them trade back because, as I said before, CJ Stroud, he has the agent that's still representing Deshaun Watson and did represent Deshaun Watson during their whole massage fucking, I don't even know what you call it. That whole court scenario thing, and obviously the bridges have burned between there. So not only that, but CJ Stroud being an Ohio State QB, failing his cognitive test and not being able to handle the pressure, even though that offensive line on the Texans has vastly improved. Um, I think the Texans could afford to wait. They have Davis Mills, who yes isn't the most flashy QB. He's very serviceable, but I mean, you have 2 picks in the top 12. You might as well try and build up that defense, especially since you hired DeMarco Ryans, the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, right? I mean, you wanna give your head coach the defensive pieces he needs, especially when he's a defensive-minded coach. So, with that in mind, we could see them trade down, but they do have a lot of picks. They have 12 picks this year, which is tied for first with the Raiders and having the most picks. I don't really see them trading down unless they get a huge, massive draft haul, like huge, including like a player. But I don't see that happening, especially when Will Anderson is on the board here, the best pass rusher in this draft class. I just don't see it. I think DeMarco Ryans gets his Nick Bosa of the Texans and Will Anderson Jr. Alrighty, and with the Cardinals up next, we all know what they're going to do. They're going to trade this pick no matter what. So we could see them trade with the Eagles or the Titans, or I hardly doubt the Packers will. Uh, Highly doubt the Packers will trade up in this scenario. Highly doubt it. But we could see the Titans. The Titans apparently have been the dark horse or the most aggressive team when it comes to trading with the Cardinals, and I could see it because now, even though Titans kind of do need a quarterback, it's not really listed on their list of needs with a wide receiver and offensive line. But you think about it, they took a gamble on Malik Willis, and last year he did absolutely fucking nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ryan Tannehill has been injured and he's obviously on his way out of there. I mean, it's Ryan Tannehill. He did well. He's very serviceable as well, but they may want to get their QB of the future, and especially with CJ Stroud technically falling, they may want to take a gamble here. Um, I really do see that. So I'm going to come up with a trade here and give me 1 second. Alrighty, now this is the best trade I could probably come up with. I mean, there was a bunch to where they got like 7 picks, but I don't think it was worth it. I think getting 2 first round picks or moving back 8 spots to get next year's first round pick, another this year's second round pick, and then next year's third round pick, I think is the best one here. I mean, we could easily add like a late round pick here. You know what? We'll do it. We'll add a fourth round pick, see if they accept it, and they do. So we're going to get the Titans, their quarterback of the future, in CJ Stroud. All right, and with the Colts on the clock, I think this one is pretty easy to figure out as well. I mean, when you look at the Colts scouting reports, you could see that they sent their entire staff to that Kentucky camp, and I don't think they'd do that if they didn't have any faith in him. Now, obviously, his grades are not that good. His size is amazing. His age is not that good either. But here's the thing: obviously, his accuracy has had some great concerns. There's a lot of argument of why Will Levi could potentially be a high pick or low pick, and that has to do with the surrounding cast around him. Now, Kentucky, they don't really have anybody else in this draft entirely. You may find like 1 or 2 people, but no one else that's really a quality. It's not like if Will Levi went to like Alabama, I bet you could do a whole ton better, right? Because of the supporting cast. A reason why his grades may have not been doing so well is because of that supporting cast. Now you can argue that he's supposed to be dominating his field, but we're looking at supporting cast that's not that well, and with the Colts seeming to be locked in on Will Levi, they're going to take a chance at the number 4 pick to get their quarterback of the future, even though they probably have a bunch of other needs. They're going to take a risk here because they've been trying to get veteran QBs, plug-in QBs for years, and it hasn't been working. Really, the best plug-in QB they've had is Philip Rivers, and he retired, and that was 3 years ago. So they're going to take their QB of the future and Will Levi. All right, and we are on the clock here with the Seahawks. Now, a lot of the times, Jalen Carter has been going to the Seahawks, and I truly get that. I truly see that as a fit. I mean, he's a great athlete, great, tremendous potential. 6'3", 314 fits an exact need of the Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks also going with, I don't know why this guy has fallen so far. Where'd he go? Or Tyree Wilson. I mean, look at that. I don't know why his rank is 28. That seems a bit fucking ridiculous. I don't think they go with Lucas Van Ness, but I think Tyree Wilson is another great pick here at this spot. But I'm going to be honest with you, Jalen Carter is just, I think he's a lock for the Seahawks. I mean, as I said before, the Seahawks are not really scared when it comes to taking troubled players. And I mean, look at all these grades. They're the top of the top. And he's done very well in his two. I mean, he's had started for 3 years, but in his main last 2 years, he's done very, very well. I it's just something you can't ignore. The Seahawks need some defensive help. They need to help stop the run. Jalen Carter is that answer. It's too easy of a pick. I know I've picked this guy in many of my other picks for the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is just I think this is a lock for the draft. I'll be honest with you. It's between him and Tyree Wilson here. I think this is a lock. We're going with Jalen Carter here. Alrighty, and the Lions are on the clock here. Here's the thing: the Lions could easily go corner here, but with the trend of defensive linemen or pass rushers, as we've seen with Will Anderson and then Jalen Carter, I see them going with Tyree Wilson here to give another edge presence outside of Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. Now, here's the thing: they also have the defensive tackle. I think his last name is Harrison. I watched a couple games, especially when against the Packers, and he actually did all right. He actually did a pretty good job. So it's not necessarily a must to have like Jalen Carter here, but with Jalen Carter already being taken, I think they're just going to either take some of the best edge rushers available because they have their second first round pick is at the 18 spot, and they could easily get somebody like Joe. Either one of these guys is going to fall. It's going to be Deontay Banks, Joey Porter, or who's the other guy? There's another corner here that I could potentially see falling. Could potentially not even no, not Christian. Yeah, it's going to be between either of those two guys. Those two guys are going to fall, and I think they're going to fit well with the Lions either way. So I think Tyree Wilson is the best spot here for this Lions team. Alrighty, and with the Raiders here, they're kind of in a cool spot because they have two of the best prospects at each of their positions right here waiting for them. And normally a lot of times maybe one just falls or maybe the one gets taken, whatnot, right? But they got options here. We could see them go with Devin Witherspoon as I've done before. Uh, I think grade wise he's the best cornerback. He reminds me of Jair Alexander. He's done very well. He's 22. 5'11", 181. Obviously, he's the number one cornerback, which is desperately what the Raiders need. They really need anything on the defensive end, or they could try and solidify that offensive line, make that offense even better with Peter Skoronski. Now, he is a tackle technically, but he could also easily be put in at guard. It's really more of just Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Raiders. Does he want to invest in this offense more, especially since he just signed Jimmy Garoppolo? Or since he signed Jimmy Garoppolo, does he want to invest in a quarterback for the future or take some defense to pretty much help that other side of the ball? Um, to be honest with you here, I think they should go with Peter Skoronski. That offensive line has been horrible for years. They have one guy on that offensive line that I think is starter worthy, and he's the left, and it's the left tackle. I forgot his name. He was picked a few years ago, but he's actually done all right. But this guy needs to be put in at the right tackle or right guard, literally wherever the worst guy is. It doesn't matter. This offensive line needs help. Josh Jacobs already did very well last year, and they have weapons, especially in Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfro. They need to capitalize on that. Let's get him, Peter Skoronski. Alrighty, and with the Falcons on the clock here, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this, but I wanted to let y'all know that I think the Falcons could potentially be the second team to fall back. And I think it's a very underrated spot for the Falcons to fall back because in this scenario, right, Anthony Richardson is still here and Devin Witherspoon is still here. So we could easily see teams trade up for these two guys or even potentially Paris Johnson Jr., depending on how desperate the team is. But the Falcons, they have 8 picks. Yeah, they have 8 picks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is literally the standard. And this Falcons team, they're in that spot to where, you know what, if they trade back from the 8th pick, they're going to get a bunch of more picks to pretty much solidify this team because they've spent a lot of free agency on that defense. So they need some young guys to come in here, learn from those veterans, learn from that defense, and pretty much just get some young guys to help build this team out again. They only have a few guys like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Desmond Ryder that are kind of locks at that team, or AJ Terrell, or pretty much those young guys are just there. But they need some more guys, and especially at the spot with Devin Witherspoon and Anthony Richardson still here, their teams could be desperate enough, maybe like QB needy teams like the Buccaneers or I mean, we could even see the Ravens if they traded Lamar Jackson. We could see the Vikings even try and get Anthony Richardson. It's hard to tell. It's hard to see. But in this case, with Devin Witherspoon really falling to the 8th spot, they've invested a lot in that secondary. And even though they just traded for Jeff Okuda, I think he's more of just like a low-risk, high-reward type of move. They only traded a 5th-round pick for him. So I think they get another cornerback to go outside of AJ Terrell and build an elite defense in Atlanta, and they take Devin Witherspoon here. Alrighty, and with the Bears on the clock here, I've seen some reports here that seems to be very clear that the Bears are wanting to take a tackle here, and his name is Paris Johnson Jr. They seem to be very high on him. I mean, he is, I think, the best left tackle in this class. Under 22 years old, 6'6", 313, has great size. He's been a starter for 2 years, has done pretty well. I mean, he's up on the pretty much the top percentile in all of his grades. So, and I think it's a good fit, even though I hate the fucking Bears. I think it's a great fit for them. So they're gonna take Paris Johnson Jr. Alrighty, and with the Eagles on the clock here, I know first round running backs don't really hardly ever happen. I get it. I get it, and I totally understand it. But one of the most underrated things you can do to protect your quarterback, especially after you signed a massive, massive deal, is to get him an offensive line, which they pretty much already have. Now they do have a hole after they lost Andre Dillard. You get him a running back. You get him a running back because they can hand off the ball for a down or two every single set of downs and be able to take the pressure off your QB, being able to have a run game because run games every single year have been vital to team success. No matter what team you're on, a lot of the times the Super Bowl winners have a top 10 running offense, no matter what. And being able to save Jalen Hurts' arm and body because he is a scramble QB, he can run the ball. I mean, he's not shy to do that. But to invest in your QB, to save on your QB, you get him an elite running back. And then here's the thing, even though they do have even though they have the number 30th pick, they could potentially wait to take him here. It's very risky. They could trade up from this 30th pick to get up, but they're going to have to trade up a lot because in this scenario, right, at the 30 spot, the Bengals could easily take him. The Bills could take him. The Cowboys could take him. The Vikings maybe even could take him. The Chargers could take him. They would have to move up all the way to the 20th spot. Easily. Easily. And that is a lot. And I don't think they want to give up that much draft capital for it. So I think they're going to take a risk here and get the probably the best skill position group in all of football in the Philadelphia Eagles and take Bijan Robinson. Alrighty, and with the Cardinals on the clock here, they're pretty much just going with best defensive player available. As I said before, they're gonna trade. They're probably gonna trade down no matter what, and they're just gonna take the best defensive player available because that defense needs help everywhere. And with them signing the head coach or the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, that the defensive coordinator is gonna want to get his defensive guy. And they lost Byron Murphy, who was a very underrated corner in this league, to the Vikings. And I think they're going to get Christian Gonzalez, who has great physical tools and is still under 21 years old. They're going to have plenty of time to have a project with him, build him up. He is kind of seen as a mini project, and so are the Cardinals. I think this is one of the few key perfect situations for both of the player and the team. I think they take Christian Gonzalez. Alrighty, with the Texans on the clock here, we could see them if they take a QB. I very well see them taking a wide receiver here like Jackson Smith-Njigba, but since they didn't, I think they go with another defensive player here. And no, it's not because the Packers traded up and you like the Packers, you want to get them the best wide receiver. No, it's not that. It's because, as I said, a lot of the times when it comes to trends, we've seen in the past with like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, or who was the other one? There's another one. I totally forgot. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. Both of these guys came from the same college, and then you know what they drafted? They pretty much get the same quarterback, wide receiver scenario, and it's actually done very well. It's actually done very, very well. And so some teams are trying to replicate that, like the Steelers with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. Now, they didn't go to the same team, but they're trying to get a young wide receiver to kind of build up with this young QB, right? But since they didn't get a QB, and I highly doubt that they will, I think they're not going to take a wide receiver yet either, or even a tight end. I think they're going to go with defense again. We could see them take Nolan Smith, but I think they're going to. They already took an edge in Will Anderson. I think they're going to get the next best defensive lineman available. Get their DeForest Buckner of the 49ers. Well, he's now a Colt, but DeForest Buckner was really good on the 49ers, if y'all remember. They're going to get their defensive tackle of the future in Kalijah Kancey. Alrighty, and with the Packers up next, I mean, I gave you all a hint before I even took the Texans pick. Now, I think they'll go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, I don't think he really outlasts the Packers in this scenario. I think the Packers will finally take a first round wide receiver. It's been, I think, 18 years. I mean, here's the thing. He is the most perfect fit for the Packers. And what I mean by that is that this guy is very good. He's able to break off routes without warning. He's changing directions, and he's a slot wide receiver. The Packers haven't had an elite slot wide receiver since Randall Cobb in 2014. They need that badly, and they already have two outside weapons in Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. Now, obviously, they're not elite, but they still have outside weapons. Tight end they could easily use to get later on in this class, because this tight end class is actually pretty fucking deep. It's actually pretty fucking deep. Now, he is a bit undersized when it comes to the Packers standard at 6 foot and 200 pounds, but I think that's still a pretty good size, even for a slot wide receiver. And he gives another weapon for this Packers team. Jordan Love needs some more weapons around him. I think the Packers will finally take a wide receiver for the first time in 18 years in Jackson Smith and Jibba. Alrighty, and with the Patriots up next, they're a pretty quiet team. Like, I haven't heard much about them. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like in general they always keep their picks pretty quiet. And so it's really hard to gauge here what they'll do, because a lot of the times nobody has any idea what they're going to do. But what I think they should do in this scenario is get Deontay Banks. And that's because that secondary is has not been doing that well. You're saying he has pretty good physical attributes at 6 foot, almost 200 pounds, only at 22 years old, has a 4.35 40 with 42-inch vert. This guy has physical attributes all around, and Bill Belichick needs a cornerback one. I mean, he's had Stephon Gilmore, he's had Darrell Revis, he's had J.C. Jackson. Now it's time to get him his next young, great cornerback one in Deontay Banks. Alrighty, and with the Jets up next after this trade, we all know what they're gonna do here. They're gonna take a tackle. They're gonna take the best one available, and I think the best one here for them is gonna be Broderick Jones. This guy is massive at 6'5", 311. He's gonna be able to protect Aaron Rodgers, keep him happy, because I know that it's hard and not fun to keep him happy, but yeah, that's a whole other thing. But obviously, we all know the Jets are going to go tackle here. I mean, Michael Beaton, their left tackle, with torn ACL last year. Elijah Vera Tucker, torn ACL. Dwayne Bowden, their right tackle, is going to be a free agent this next year. So Broderick Jones will play either tackle position. I think he can play either tackle position. Tackle is really the only position of need here on this team, because that defense was top 10 last year in every single statistical category, has done very well. Protect Aaron Rodgers. Go win a Super Bowl, please. Do it for Aaron Rodgers' sake, please. Packers have disappointed him year in and year out. Please win a Super Bowl, Jets. Please, please do it. They're gonna get their tackle and Broderick Jones. Alrighty, and the Commanders are up next here. Now, in my draft needs, I knew this was one of the teams that very different, and yes, I put Redskins on purpose. Um, but pretty much their entire needs when it comes to the offensive side is offensive line. That entire left side is not that good. The right tackle position is really the only position that's solid, because they signed Andrew Liley, who was the right tackle on the Chiefs, so he's okay. But they need everything else. We could see them go with a left tackle here. I mean, very rarely we could see him go with Darnell Wright, but he plays more right tackle. Anton Harrison, I think it's a reach here, but and I know I just said a reach here for Anton Harrison, but I think they go with Osiris Torrance. He's the best guard in this class. He's 6'5", 330. I think he's huge. I don't know why they say he's very little. I think it's only because of his I don't know why. I don't know why they say he's very little when he's 6'5" and 330. I mean, when you look at a 6'5", 330-pound motherfucker, you're not thinking that dude's small. No, you're thinking that's a massive motherfucker, and especially for a guard, this dude is massive, and he protected Anthony Richardson very well. Has a very good run blocking grade. Now he could work on that pass block a little bit, but he's a guard, so it's all right. It's all right. And his 2 years as a starter has done very well. Phil's in a position of need. Go protect Sam Howell, potentially your future QB, to be able to throw down the ball to your three wide receivers that are all pretty good. So I think they go with Torrance. All right, and with the Steelers on the clock here, obviously one of their biggest needs is tackle, which we're going to fill here because Anton Harrison and Darnell Wright are still here. You got to protect Kenny Pickett. He's your franchise QB. You got to protect him. That offensive line is horrible, especially for a team that's very physical on all fronts. I mean, the Steelers scream physical not dirty, but like rough and tough football, right? Like they have TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward on one side of the ball. Physical tough men, right? That's what you think of the Steelers. But that offensive side of the ball, not so much. Now, James Daniels, the right guard, is literally the only position on the offensive line that can stay. So they need a tackle. They may as well start now. even though they probably could use a left tackle here, unfortunately, none of the left tackles full of them. But the right tackle here, who's under 22 years old, 6'5", 330, I mean, that's pretty fucking great attributes. And he's done very well against Will Anderson, the best pass rusher in this draft class. I don't think you could pass up like a guy on Darnell Wright. Just you need offensive line help no matter what. You take the best player available, and that is Darnell Wright. Alrighty, and with the Lions up next at the 18th spot, as I told y'all before, either Deontay Banks or Joey Porter will probably fall to them, and Joey Porter did. So we're gonna get this defense to help even more. Now they did sign a bunch of guys in free agency to the secondary. I get that, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Emmanuel Mosley, two out of the three guys that they did sign in free agency, are on 1-year deals. So it's not a bad idea to get a cornerback of the future, especially after you traded Jeff Okudah, bring in some depth. Also have a guy come in and learn. I mean, he's massive at 6'2" and 193. Great physical attributes for a corner. We're going to take him for the Detroit Lions. Alrighty, and with the Buccaneers here on the clock, we could see them take Dalton Kincaid or an edge rusher in Nolan Smith, but I think we all know who they should take here. They need a quarterback. They have Kyle Trask, who hasn't shown any potential, even from learning behind Tom Brady. And then they signed Baker Mayfield to a 1-year deal. Baker Mayfield's pretty much a certified backup for the rest of his career. This guy is under 21 years old. He's a project in himself, but kind of the Buccaneers are kind of a project in themselves too. I think that team's going to start collapsing here in the next couple of years. But giving Anthony Richardson some weapons to see where his true value is at is not a bad idea. I think they take Anthony Richardson here. Alrighty, with the Seahawks up next with their second pick in this first round at number 20, one of their biggest needs was defensive line in general. I mean, I really said defensive tackle because they did sign some defensive ends to like 1-2 year deals, but we could see them invest in the future, especially with Nolan Smith. Technically, in this instance, falling to them, I'm not very high on Nolan Smith because he is a 3-4 wide edge pass rusher, which I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, the Seahawks are as well. Give me a second. There we go. Let's see their depth chart because a lot of times we'll show them. Some teams I thought were certain, but they're not. Oh, they do run a 3-4. This is actually perfect. So Nolan Smith is a great fit here for this team. They do need some pass rush help. I think he'll be pretty much a great addition for them. Bring some physical size and speed to this defense. I mean, I know his size is not that great for an edge rusher, but his speed is still pretty good. It reminds me of Montez Sweat, and Montez Sweat has done pretty all right. So I think they take another defensive player to help out this defensive line and this defense in general, and the Seahawks in Nolan Smith. Alrighty, and with the Chargers on the clock here, I see them with two options here. Now, they also are kind of just like a team, just like the Raiders before, to where I think they have two of the top guys that are the top of their pretty much at the top of their position, just waiting for them, and that's Dalton Kincaid and Brian Branch. Now here's the thing: they have Gerald Everett, who has done all right. He's been serviceable, but you may want to give some more weapons to Justin Herbert, right? Because in the pass happy AFC, you can't get. I mean, there's no amount of there's no cap on the amount of weapons you can have, right? But with also that in mind, you could also definitely use some defensive help to pretty much kind of negate the rest of the AFC in their passing power, because they did lose Nasir Adderley, their free safety, to retirement. And yes, Derwin James was a great safety, but Brian Branch would play free safety. And they've seemed to be taking more of a defensive approach when it comes to um, not their draft, but their free agency focus and their trades in the last couple of years, because that offense is booming. And I feel like if Austin Eckler is going to get traded, I feel like he would have done it by now. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We could see them take Dalton Kincaid, but we also could see them wait because this tight end class is very deep. Getting the best safety on the board here to help solidify that defense would be great because that defense did sustain a lot of injuries. One of the reasons why they fell short last year, even though they did choke a 28-point fucking lead in the wild card game, which I don't know how Brian Stanley still has his job. That's insane. But they do need some help in that secondary, and he can play the slot corner or the safety. I think Brian Branch is the best spot for this Chargers team to take. All right, and with the Ravens on the clock here, I think this one's pretty easy. It's kind of the same scenario with Austin Eckler and the Chargers. I think if Lamar Jackson was going to be traded, it would have been done by now. Because I mean, if you think about an MVP quarterback, I've said this in my Baltimore Ravens video. Think about an MVP quarterback who is still very young and is considered to be very good in this league. Why aren't teams pretty much chomping at the bit to get him? There's a reason why. I mean, some teams, I think a lot of teams may think that Lamar Jackson is only very successful because of the franchise he's in. He's in a perfect environment. So unfortunately, Lamar Jackson may have to just stay, take the deal that he's given, and just kind of work with what he's got. Now, I've heard reports that the Ravens have been offering more and more guaranteed money to him every time they talk, which is a good thing. I mean, it's showing that they're kind of getting towards a closer goal, right? And sometimes it just takes a while, but they get what they need, right? And so with them signing Odell Beckham, I think they're going to try and get the best player available here at the wide receiver position, which is Jordan Addison. I mean, look at that. Besides the contested catch, he's done very well. He's very agile, very quick. Um, I just I don't see him taking any other pick here, to be honest with you. They don't need a tight end. They don't really need edge. They don't need tight end. Tackle, they're fine with. I don't like Quentin Johnson. He's too small. I think Jordan Addison's the best player available here for this Baltimore Ravens here pick. Makes too much sense. All right, and with the Vikings up next, they don't have a whole lot of picks, and they lost their entire defense. They pretty much lost their entire defense besides Daniel Hunter and Harrison Smith to either cuts or free agency. So I mean, they don't have a lot of picks, so they need to get as much picks as possible. And they just got a head coach, so you want to try and get him the most amount of draft picks you can get, so he can get the players that he wants, so you can build the team that he needs, right? So pretty much to make the team as successful as possible. And so I think the Vikings here should trade back because I think in this instance they're going to be looking at Miles Murphy at the edge rusher position to go outside of Daniel Hunter, and I think he's going to be there at the 28th spot for them. And with the Bengals, I think they want to trade up to get Dalton Kincaid because teams like the Cowboys, even the Bills, will probably take a tight end. Now it's more likely going to be the Cowboys, especially with Bijan Robinson gone. But we could see the Bills take it because Dawson Knox, I mean, it's been okay. I mean, he showed really good potential, but I think the Bills could potentially take another tight end to replace him. So I think the Bengals trade up and get another weapon to help Joe Burrow finally get to the Super Bowl again and win one in Dalton Kincaid. Alrighty, and this is another easy pick to take here. I mean, Anton Harrison, they need a tackle. They lost Jawan Taylor to the Chiefs in free agency, and they need to protect Trevor Lawrence, especially with a pass heavy offense on that team. And they got Calvin Ridley, which is make that passing attack even more potent. And Anton Harrison is the best tackle here. He could play both tackles. I think he'll end up on the right side like Jawan Taylor did. 6'4", 315, not even 22 years old, barely 21. There's nothing to not like about Anton Harrison, to be honest with you. I think they take him here. Alrighty, and with the Giants up next, I think they go with wide receiver here because I think one of their biggest needs that I had that's been quite overlooked has been corner. Now, they could use some offensive line at the center and left guard position, but there's a lot of guys in the second and third round that they can get. And then at the corner position, unfortunately, everybody's gone by now. But the wide receiver position, there's still guys here. And there's especially guys like Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers would be a great fit. I mean, especially since they took a keen interest in investing in Daniel Jones after giving him a 4-year, $160 million deal and then trading for Darren Waller. They obviously believe in Daniel Jones. Brian Dabble has shown that he can work with Daniel Jones. So why not give him some more weapons, give him some more help? They already have Saquon Barkley. They already have Darius Slayton. They just got Darren Waller. Give him another weapon. Give him a young weapon in Zay Flowers, who's going to be very speedy, very quick. He can play out of that slot very well. Just get him another weapon. All right, and with the Cowboys on the clock here, I don't really this one's going to be tough because here's the thing. I know a lot of you guys, Cowboy fans, they're like the flashy picks. You may want to go with Michael Mayer. I mean, he's one of the few perfect fits for the Dallas Cowboys because not only is he a threat in the passing game, he can run block, and the Cowboys like to run the ball. So why not? Well, here's the thing. Even though Michael Myers probably not going to be there in the second round to get him, this tight end class is deep. And I know I keep saying that, and that means these tight ends are going to fall. But here's the thing. I know there's a guy that's not going to fall that's going to plug in a huge need for them, and that's Mozzie Smith. As I show here, defensive tackle is a big need, and they've obviously invested in the defense. And they want to win a Super Bowl now when they traded for Stephon Gilmore. And this run defense, I mean, the Cowboys defense has done very, very well, but it can get even better if they get an official run stopper. I mean, look at this. A run stop rate is almost at 12%. Pass rush win rate is almost at 12%. I mean, his run defensive grade is absolutely amazing, and he's done very well in his 2 years as a starter. He's done pretty well, and he's 6'3", 323. He's going to swallow up that inside. He's Don Terry Poe comparison, who, if y'all don't remember, Don Terry Poe was one of the best defensive tackles there for a few years. He's under 22 years old. I think he's a perfect fit, even though he will be considered a reach, and this may not be a sexy pick. I think this plug-in is a need, especially for a team that's looking to win a Super Bowl here in the next couple years. So Dallas Cowboys are desperate. Even though a flashy pick like Michael Meyer would be great, I think Mozzie Smith would be a lot better fit. Now with the Buffalo Bills here, I know I did mention saying that, they could take a tight end here, but here's the thing. They need a cornerback. They need a cornerback outside of Tre'Davious White. And even though the defense is pretty good, Khalil Alum has not been doing that well. I mean, pretty much really anybody outside of Tre'Davious White has not been spectacular. They need a quarterback too. And even though I don't really like Emmanuel Forms, I cannot argue his grades. I mean, those grades are absolutely amazing. He's done pretty well the last 2 years as a starter. He has great length and size at 6 foot. Now his weight is a little bit bad, but when you're in Buffalo, you're going to be sitting inside all day, which means he's going to be gaining weight. So I think I think this is the best spot for him to land. To be honest with you, um, I really do think so, and I think they're going to take another chance on another cornerback here in the first round in Emmanuel Forbes. And as I said before, the Vikings, I think they're going to get Miles Murphy here at the 28th spot, and they did. I mean, they need a pass rusher of the future. He is a project. I mean, he's barely 21 years old. He's 6'5", 258, which is great. The only concern about I have with him when it comes to his future is that this guy did not dominate college football the way he probably should have, especially playing at Clemson, surrounded by a bunch of good players. I mean, good NFL quality players. So I don't know. That's a bit of a concern, but this defense needs all the help it can get. It could easily go with Lucas Van Ness here, too. I mean, he's 6'5", 272. He's a bit bigger in the weight category, and he's shown a little bit more dominance. It could be either or, but I think Miles Murphy is the selection that the Vikings take here. And speaking of another pass rusher that a team needs, the Saints need another pass rusher. As I said before, they've lost Marcus Davenport, who, even though he only had half a sack last year, he's not really a big of a loss, but there's still a hole at the edge position. Lucas Van Ness has fallen when it comes to the drafts in recent, which is very good for the Saints because he's a good pass rusher. He reminds me of what's that guy's name? The Hall of Famer. Oh, JJ Watt. I mean, small school, big man, not undersized, but underage. I mean, he's done very well. He's a power rusher. I mean, why not put him outside of Cam Jordan? I mean, seriously, I think this is a great pick for the Saints team here. I think they go with Lucas Van Ness. All right, and the Eagles are up at the 30th pick. Now, here's the thing. They're kind of stuck in a weird spot because all these guys here that are left for them, they don't really need. They don't need this wide receiver, Quinn Johnson. I'm not very high on him. I don't think he's going to fit there in Eagles anyway. Michael Meyer, they already have Dallas Goedert. Pass rusher, I think this guy's a bit undersized for what the Eagles are looking for. They also run a 4-3, and this guy's better at 3-4. Dewan Jones, they could take. They really could. Don't really see it. I think Eagles and their fan base are pretty happy with that offensive line still. Edge rusher, I mean, we could see them go with him here. They don't need a center. Jameer Gibbs, they already took one in this draft with Bijan Robinson. They don't. Darnell Washington. We could see them go with Josh Downs, but they do need a linebacker because they lost T.J. Edwards, their leading tackler. And this guy, I don't know how I have not heard of this man until pretty much a day ago. But look at this guy. He's a coverage linebacker, obviously, as we see here. Um, he's 87 run defensive grade and a 92 coverage grade, and he did very well against Ohio State. Did well against Illinois. Did well against Minnesota and Wisconsin. So why is this guy flying under the radar? I don't understand. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's his physical attributes, right? Maybe he's undersized. This dude is a 6'5 coverage linebacker at 250. How is he not ranked higher? I don't I don't understand. Now they're saying that he has a low ceiling. He's a high floor but low ceiling, and he's not even 23, so it's not even his age. So I guess they're really concerned about his low ceiling, which I guess is why he's falling. But when you're the Eagles and you're all we're one play away from winning the Super Bowl, and you have a position of need that need to fill, and this guy's right here. And unfortunately, your second round pick that you have is at the 62 spot. This guy ain't gonna last. I'm not taking that chance. And he's a middle linebacker, which is what exactly TJ Edwards was. Now, yes, they do have N'Kobe Dean, who they drafted last year, but it never hurts to have some insurance policy. It's the NFL. Guys get injured all the time. Never hurts. I think they take a linebacker here who I would, if I didn't have, if the Packers didn't have Devondre Campbell or Quay Walker, I'd love to have this man. I think they take Jack Campbell here. And with the Chiefs on the clock here at the very last pick, y'all are probably thinking, oh, Will McDonald or maybe even DeJuan Jones, maybe edge rusher, right? Here's what I'm thinking. I don't like this guy at all. I do not like this guy at all. I mean, for a guy that's 6'3" and over 200 pounds and is under 22 years old, this guy's contested catch rate is absolute dog shit. 35%. No. And especially when you go against, I mean, he didn't do well against Texas. He didn't do well against Texas Tech. He barely did anything against Michigan, didn't do anything against Georgia, didn't do anything against Oklahoma. Concerning. Concerning. And especially his grades, not that amazing. He's had a 1,000-yard season this year and 6 touchdowns. That's decent. But it's it's hard to like this man. But what I cannot argue is the fact that Kansas City is in need of a wide receiver. And all their wide receivers right now are MVS, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore is 5'9". Kadarius Toney is 5'10". Both of those guys are very quick. I get that. MVS, yes, he is tall, but he's not the jump up contested catch type of guy. Now, here's the thing. The Chiefs could make Quentin Johnson everything that he's supposed to be because he has the physical attributes. He has explosiveness. He's an ex wide receiver. He's gonna be technically the wide receiver one because he's 6'3" and 210, right? Now he can obviously improve on his physicality, as I said, with his contested catch. But when you play with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, there's nothing that you can't do. And this guy has every intangible asset that you want in a wide receiver. He has all the physical tools except for to be able to jump the ball. Now that's stuff you can teach. He has everything in a wide receiver that you cannot teach. And I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to be able to teach this man how to catch a ball, how to do this, how to do that, maximize his potential. I think Quinn Johnson to the Chiefs would maximize him to the best that he can be. I think it's going to be the best spot for him, and they're in a position of need to get wide receiver. I don't like him, but I cannot argue the great fit that Quinn Johnson could be in Kansas City. Alrighty, and as y'all know, PFF, I mean, normally they do grades, but not for your first round if you do all the teams. So here's how I predict that this draft on Thursday will go. Bryce 1 at Young, Will Anderson 2, CJ Stroud at 3, Will Levi at 4. So 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. Let me know what y'all think, how I did down below, and I will see y'all later. I love y'all. Peace.